There are days when everything around you seems to crumble, when what once felt stable begins to tremble, and the future looks like a blur of unanswered questions. You wake up with the weight of why pressing against your heart. Why did things turn out this way? Why did the door you prayed for close so suddenly? In those moments of uncertainty, when silence seems louder than faith, God whispers to your heart, "For I know the plans I have for you," declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. These words are not just a verse to be read, they are a promise to be lived. Even when you cannot see beyond the fog, God's hands are still steady. His timing is never late, even when your waiting feels endless. The silence you perceive is not his absence, it is his preparation. He is aligning every detail, weaving purpose into pain, shaping beauty from the ashes you thought were final. When everything feels uncertain, faith becomes your anchor. It's what holds you still when everything else moves. The Bible reminds you, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Hebrews 11:1. You may not understand the path, but you are walking beside the one who knows the destination. And that truth alone is enough to calm your spirit. You see, faith doesn't erase fear, it redirects it. It teaches you to trust even when your heart trembles. It teaches you to rest when your mind wants to run. When you surrender your plans, you make room for God's. And his plans, even when they feel delayed, are always designed with love. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. There will be nights when you cry without words, when your soul aches for a sign that God still remembers you. And yet, even in the quiet, he is near. The same God who parted the sea for Moses, who stood beside Daniel in the lion's den, who comforted Ruth in her loss, stands beside you now. He hasn't forgotten your name. Every tear you've shed has been collected. Every prayer you've whispered has been heard. When life feels like a puzzle with missing pieces, trust that God holds the full picture. His perspective stretches far beyond the moment. What looks like a detour might be the exact road leading you to your destiny. Sometimes he allows confusion so that you may seek his clarity. Sometimes he permits loss so that your heart can learn to cling only to him. Breathe deeply and rest in this truth. God's plans are not canceled by your circumstances. His love does not fade when the night grows long. You may not see how things will work out, but you can be certain that they will, because the one who promised is faithful. The morning will come, and with it, light will spill into the corners of your soul. So today, lift your gaze above the noise. Let peace, not panic, guide your heart. God's hand is still over your life, tracing a story that leads to hope. The same God who started your journey will bring it to completion. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time of day are you joining this prayer? I'd love to know where this moment of faith is reaching. When everything feels uncertain, it's easy to believe that your life has fallen out of God's plan. You see others moving forward while you seem to be standing still, and doubt begins to whisper that maybe you've missed your chance. Maybe you took the wrong turn. But God wants to remind you today, his plan for your life has not changed. His promises are not fragile, and his purpose cannot be destroyed by circumstances. The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Your steadfast love, O Lord, endures forever. Psalm 138:8. Even when you make mistakes, he weaves redemption into them. Even when you wander, his grace finds you on the road back home. The truth is that nothing can stop the purpose of God. Not your past, not your fears, not even the delay you didn't expect. He is not limited by what limits you. What feels like a setback is often God's way of realigning your path with his perfect design. In moments of confusion, remember that God's silence is not rejection, it's refinement. He is preparing your heart to carry the blessing he has prepared. You may not see the construction happening beneath the surface, but he's laying the foundation for something that will last. Just as a seed must remain hidden underground before it blooms, you too may be in a season where nothing seems to be happening. Yet underground, life is forming. God is working. The plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. Psalm 33:11. Those words hold a quiet power. They remind you that while everything in this world shifts and fades, his word remains unshaken. People may fail you, opportunities may vanish, but the hand of God still guides every moment. You are not walking through chaos. You are walking through a divine classroom. Every challenge teaches trust. Every delay strengthens patience. Every unanswered prayer deepens surrender. The storms you face are not proof that God has abandoned you. They are proof that he is still molding you for something greater. When fear rises, take comfort in this truth. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1:6. The story of your life is not half written. The author hasn't stopped writing. What you call uncertainty, he calls process. What you see as delay, he calls preparation. And even now, when your heart feels weary, he surrounds you with mercy. His presence is like gentle rain over dry ground, restoring what was fading, awakening what was sleeping. His love reaches into the quiet corners of your soul, whispering, "You are still mine. I have not forgotten you." Let peace fill the places where anxiety once lived. God's hands are steady even when your world shakes. You don't need to understand the plan to trust the planner. Walk forward one step at a time and let your faith be stronger than your fear. Waiting is one of the hardest parts of faith. It tests your patience, your endurance, and your belief that God truly knows what he's doing. You pray, you hope, you hold on, and yet time moves slowly, almost painfully. The silence can feel endless. You begin to wonder if God has heard you, if maybe your prayer got lost somewhere between heaven and earth. But Scripture reminds you, the Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Lamentations 3:25. Waiting is not a punishment, it's preparation. God uses it to shape your heart into something stronger, purer, more aligned with his will. While you're waiting for the blessing, he's building the strength to sustain it. He's protecting you from doors that look good, but would lead to harm. He's maturing your faith so that when his promise arrives, you'll recognize it as his, and not your own doing. Sometimes the delay is mercy. God knows what your heart can carry, and he refuses to give you less than his best. Remember the story of Abraham. How long he waited for the son God promised. Each year that passed was not wasted. It was another layer of faith being built. When the promise finally came, it wasn't just about receiving a son. It was about knowing that God keeps his word, even when the years seem to say otherwise. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:31. That verse isn't about those who rush or panic. It's about those who wait. Waiting with faith isn't doing nothing. It's trusting that even in stillness, God moves mountains on your behalf. While you wait, he whispers lessons into your spirit about patience, humility, surrender, and trust. Each quiet moment is a chance to draw nearer to him, to let go of control, and to rest in his perfect timing. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that every unanswered prayer, every delay, every detour had purpose. The things that once frustrated you will become testimonies of how God orchestrated everything with precision and love. Even Jesus waited. Before beginning his ministry, he spent years in obscurity, learning obedience and trust. His greatest miracles came after seasons of silence. And if the Son of God waited, how much more must we learn to do the same with grace and patience? In this season, let peace guard your heart. God's timing is never rushed because his love is never uncertain. He knows exactly when to open the door, when to speak, and when to act. When the right moment comes, it will unfold effortlessly. No striving, no forcing, no fear. Just grace meeting purpose. So as you wait, breathe deeply. You are not forgotten. You are being refined. What feels like stillness is actually sacred ground where your faith grows roots deep enough to stand through any storm. Trust that God is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet imagine. Are you in a waiting season? What do you think God might be teaching you right now through this time of silence? There are moments when the storm around you feels too strong to bear. When life crashes like waves against your soul, and no matter how hard you try to stay afloat, the current of fear pulls you under. It's in those moments that you need to remember who is in your boat. Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Matthew 8:26. The same Jesus who calmed the storm for his disciples is the same one who speaks peace over your life today. God never promised that you wouldn't face storms. What he promised is that he would never leave you in them. Every storm has a purpose. Sometimes it exposes the things that can't stand the wind, false hopes, misplaced trust, fears you didn't know you carried. But as the rain falls and the thunder roars, his voice still whispers, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." Isaiah 41:10. Peace isn't the absence of the storm. It's the presence of Christ in the middle of it. True peace comes when you stop trying to control the outcome and start resting in the one who already knows it. You might not understand how he'll bring you through, but you can trust that he will. Sometimes his miracle isn't calming the sea. It's calming your heart while the sea still rages. In the chaos, remember this. The storm you're facing today could be the very thing that leads you closer to God's heart. Just as Peter walked on the water toward Jesus, your faith grows strongest when you step out into what seems impossible. And even if you start to sink, his hand is already stretched out to catch you. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Isaiah 26:3. Fix your eyes not on what's breaking, but on the one who holds it all together. The waves can roar, the wind can scream, but they still know his name. Every element of creation bows to his command. The same power that spoke light into existence speaks peace into your storm right now. And when it feels unbearable, remember this truth: no storm lasts forever. Every dark sky eventually breaks into dawn. What feels endless today will one day become the story of how God sustained you when you thought you couldn't go on. The peace he gives is not fragile, it's anchored in eternity. It doesn't depend on your surroundings. It flows from his presence within you. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine his peace wrapping around you like a warm blanket on a cold night. His hands hold your heart steady. His breath calms the chaos inside you. You are safe, even here. You are seen, even now. And you are loved beyond measure. There are seasons when God's presence feels distant, when prayers seem to echo back unanswered, and your faith feels thin beneath the weight of waiting. Yet it's often in those unseen moments that his presence is closest. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:6. Even when you can't feel him, he is there, closer than your own breath, steady in the silence, faithful in the shadows. Sometimes God hides, not because he's gone, but because he's teaching you to see him differently. He wants you to find him not only in answered prayers, but also in the quiet of surrender. His presence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's gentle, like the whisper Elijah heard on the mountain, not in the wind, not in the fire, but in the still small voice. 1 Kings 19:11-12. You don't have to chase his presence. You simply have to be still enough to notice it. In the unseen moments, when no one else knows the battles you fight, he does. He sees the thoughts you can't express, the tears that fall in secret, the fears you hide behind a quiet smile. You may feel forgotten, but heaven knows your name. Your story is written in his hands. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Isaiah 49:16. That means you are never out of his sight, never outside his care. Sometimes God's presence doesn't come to change your situation. It comes to change your heart within the situation. He fills the empty spaces not with explanations, but with peace. He reminds you that his love isn't proven by how quickly he moves, but by how faithfully he stays. Every quiet morning, every long night, he is the same. Constant, compassionate, near. When your mind feels overwhelmed, remind yourself, God is in this moment too. Not just in the victory you're hoping for, but in the process you're walking through. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23:4. The valley doesn't mean abandonment. It means he is walking beside you. guiding you through what you cannot yet see. The unseen moments are sacred. They are the proving ground of your faith. They're where you learn to depend not on emotion, but on truth. You don't need to see God to know He's moving. The sun still shines above the clouds even when you can't see it. In the same way, His love still surrounds you even when your world feels dark. So when the silence feels heavy, whisper this prayer: God, I don't understand, but I trust you. Even when I can't feel you, I know you're near. That is faith in its purest form. Not believing because you see, but seeing because you believe. And in time, His presence will reveal itself again, stronger, deeper, more personal than before. You'll realize He was never far away. He was simply waiting for your heart to rest in Him completely. There are days when life feels like a maze, each turn uncertain, each step clouded by doubt. You try to make sense of where God is leading you, but nothing seems to add up. The doors you prayed for stay closed, and the paths you expected to walk seem blocked. In moments like these, faith becomes less about understanding and more about trusting. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. You see, trust isn't built when everything makes sense. It's forged in confusion. It's in the places where your plans crumble that God's guidance becomes most visible. He allows uncertainty not to punish you, but to purify your confidence in Him. The truth is, if you could see everything ahead, you wouldn't need faith. And yet faith is the very language that unlocks His promises. Abraham didn't know where God was leading him when he left his home. Moses didn't understand how the sea would part when he stood before it. Joseph didn't realize that betrayal and imprisonment were steps toward destiny. None of them had the full picture, but all of them had a faithful God. And that same God is guiding you right now, even through paths that make no sense. When you feel lost, remember that God's direction is often discovered through surrender. You can't follow His lead if your hands are clenched around your own plans. Sometimes He has to allow confusion to loosen your grip so that you can take His hand fully. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. Notice, it's a lamp, not a floodlight. He shows you one step at a time, not the entire journey. The unknown isn't meant to frighten you. It's meant to teach you dependence. Each uncertain step becomes a sacred space where you learn that God's presence is greater than your understanding. And in that quiet surrender, peace begins to bloom. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you can be certain that the one who holds tomorrow is already there, preparing the way. When you can't see the plan, remember His character. God is not reckless with your life. He doesn't lead you into confusion to leave you there. He leads you through it to show you that His wisdom is higher than yours. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Isaiah 55:9. Maybe the delay you face isn't a denial. Maybe it's direction. Maybe the unanswered prayer isn't rejection, it's redirection. God sees what you cannot. He knows which roads lead to destruction and which lead to life. And though you may stumble, His grace catches every step. So take a breath and trust the process. Let go of the illusion that you must understand everything before you obey. Faith isn't a map, it's a compass pointing to Him. Every path He allows is ultimately for your good, even when it doesn't feel that way now. One day you'll look back and realize that the detours were divine protection, not distraction. And when that day comes, your heart will whisper in gratitude, "Now I see. You were leading me all along." There are moments when your soul feels tired, so tired that even hope feels heavy. You wake up carrying the same burdens you laid down last night, wondering when the weight will finally lift. You've prayed, you've believed, and still, the answer seems far away. In those moments, God doesn't tell you to try harder. He invites you to rest deeper. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. You were never meant to carry everything alone. The world teaches you to stay strong, to keep pushing through, but God teaches something different. Surrender, He whispers, "Let me hold you," because His strength begins where yours ends. The power that raised Christ from the dead still lives within you. It's not your energy that sustains you, It's His grace that carries you through. When you feel weary, remember that even Jesus grew tired. He rested, He prayed, He withdrew from the crowds to be alone with the Father. That rhythm of retreat wasn't weakness, it was renewal. You too are invited into that sacred pause. It's in that quiet place where the noise fades that you can finally hear His heartbeat whispering, "You're not alone. I'm here." The psalmist wrote, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." Psalm 73:26. When you can no longer stand on your own, His hands lift you. When you can't find words to pray, His Spirit intercedes for you. Romans 8:26. You don't need to have it all together for God to work. You just need to keep your heart open. Sometimes strength doesn't look like conquering mountains. It looks like standing still when everything inside you wants to give up. It's waking up to another day and choosing to believe that God hasn't finished yet. Each breath you take is a quiet testimony of His sustaining power. The fact that you're still here means grace is still working. When your heart feels like it's breaking under the weight of disappointment, hold on to this. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. Eagles don't escape storms. They use the wind to rise higher. God isn't asking you to fight the storm. He's teaching you to soar through it. Let His peace wash over your exhaustion. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine laying every burden, your fear, your anxiety, your unanswered questions, at His feet. He bends down to lift the load from your shoulders, reminding you that His grace is sufficient, even here, even now. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stay close to the one who does. And if today all you can do is whisper, "Lord, help me," that's enough. He hears you. He's nearer than your pain, stronger than your struggle, and more faithful than your fears. Don't give up. This weariness is not the end. It's a turning point. Soon you will look back and see how even your weakest moments were filled with His power. You will realize that what felt like breaking was actually building. There are seasons when heaven feels quiet, when your prayers rise but seem to return with no reply. You whisper in faith, yet the only sound you hear is the echo of your own voice. In those still moments you may wonder, is God listening? Does He see me? But silence is not absence. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Psalm 37:7. Silence often means that God is speaking in ways your heart has not yet learned to recognize. We live in a world of constant noise, where every moment demands an answer, an update, a sign. But God doesn't always work within the rhythm of urgency. His timing moves with eternity in mind, not convenience. Sometimes He withdraws His voice to deepen your faith, to teach you that His presence is more than feelings and that His promises are stronger than what your senses perceive. Think of Joseph in prison. Think of David hiding in caves. Think of Jesus in Gethsemane. Each faced silence that seemed unbearable, but that silence was not empty, it was sacred. In that quiet space, God was preparing purpose, strength, and glory. What you perceive as delay might be divine timing taking shape beneath the surface. Silence from God is not punishment, it's protection. If He spoke too soon, you might move before your foundation is ready. If He answered too quickly, you might settle for something smaller than what He has planned. He is not withholding to hurt you. He is waiting to bless you at the right time. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. It's hard to be still when your heart aches for direction, but stillness is where revelation grows. When you stop striving to hear and start resting in who He is, the silence becomes less frightening and more comforting, because deep down, you begin to realize He is there, even when He doesn't speak. His silence is not the space between you and Him. It's the shadow of His hand resting quietly over your life. Sometimes, God's silence is His way of letting your faith grow wings. He's teaching you to trust His character even when you can't trace His voice. The same God who spoke galaxies into existence can use silence to refine your soul. One day when the time is right, the silence will break and you'll hear Him again. Maybe not with thunder or lightning, but with peace. His answer may come as a door that suddenly opens, as a conversation you didn't expect, or as a peace that no longer needs explanation. You'll realize that He was speaking all along, not through words, but through His unwavering presence. So if today feels quiet, don't mistake it for distance. Sit in the stillness and whisper, God, I trust you even here. Let faith rise not from what you hear, but from who you know him to be. Faithful, near, and working all things together for your good, for we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. The silence is not your ending. It's the pause before his promise unfolds. Have you ever experienced a time when God's silence later revealed his perfect timing? Share that testimony. It may bring peace to someone still waiting for his voice. There is a rhythm in God's work that doesn't follow our clocks or calendars. His timing often feels mysterious, even frustrating, when we're caught between what was and what's yet to come. But everything he does carries purpose, precision, and love. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. Those words remind you that God's delays are not denials. They're divine pauses designed to align your heart with his perfect plan. You may think you're ready now, but God sees beyond the surface. He knows the seasons when you can flourish and the moments when your roots need to grow deeper. Sometimes his "not yet" is mercy in disguise. It's his way of protecting you from what would harm you if it came too soon. The waiting that feels painful is often the process that prepares you for the promise. Think about nature, how every seed waits for its appointed time. You don't plant a seed today and expect fruit tomorrow. There's a hidden work beneath the soil, roots forming, strength building, life quietly unfolding where eyes cannot see. That's exactly how God works with you. Even when it looks like nothing is happening, he's growing something sacred in secret. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Habakkuk 2:3. The promises God has spoken over your life are not forgotten. They are waiting for their moment to bloom, and when that moment arrives, no obstacle can stand in the way. His timing is never random. It's redemptive. Sometimes your frustration isn't because God is late. It's because you're early. You want the door to open before the foundation beneath you is strong enough to sustain it. God's timing ensures that blessings don't become burdens. He doesn't want you to receive something that will crush you. He wants you to be ready to carry it with grace. Look at Jesus' life. Even he waited 30 years before beginning his public ministry. There was no rush, no panic. Every moment of preparation was holy. Each hidden year built the wisdom, strength, and obedience necessary for what was coming. If the Son of God waited for his time, how much more can we trust that our timing is being shaped by the same loving hands? While you wait, let peace replace pressure. Stop asking when, and start asking, what are you teaching me here? Because every season of delay has a lesson: patience, trust, surrender, gratitude. And when the time comes, everything will unfold so effortlessly that you'll know it was God alone. What once required striving will simply align. So take a deep breath. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're right on schedule according to heaven's timeline. God's clock never runs late. It runs eternal. The waiting isn't wasted. It's woven into the masterpiece he's creating in and through you. One day you'll look back and say, if it had happened when I wanted it to, I wouldn't have been ready. But God knew exactly when to move. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you. 2 Peter 3:9. His patience is grace. His timing is perfect, and his purpose for you is unstoppable. Fear has a way of whispering louder than truth. It tells you that the worst will happen, that you're not strong enough, that maybe God won't come through this time. It tries to drown out faith, replacing peace with panic. But faith and fear cannot rule the same heart. One must give way to the other. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Fear thrives where trust fades. It grows in the gaps where you doubt God's goodness. But every time you choose faith, you weaken fear's grip. Faith isn't pretending you're not afraid. It's deciding that fear will not have the final word. It's standing firm on God's promises even when your knees tremble. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army closing in, fear told them to turn back. Faith told them to move forward. And when they did, the waters parted. The same God who opened that sea still opens impossible paths today. Fear only sees the waves. Faith sees the one who walks on them. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Psalm 56:3. Notice that the verse doesn't say if you are afraid, it says when. God knows you will feel fear at times, but He invites you to bring that fear to Him, to let His truth replace your worry. Every what if can be answered with God is. What if I fail? God is faithful. What if I'm alone? God is with me. What if I can't handle it? God is my strength. Fear says, you're on your own. Faith says, you're never alone. And when you start to believe that truth, your heart begins to steady. You stop looking at the storm, and you start looking at the Savior. Sometimes fear disguises itself as caution, as logic, as self-protection, but underneath, it's still fear, and it cannot coexist with perfect love. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. 1 John 4:18. The love of God is stronger than your worst anxiety. It meets you in the dark and lights the path one step at a time. You don't overcome fear by trying harder. You overcome it by drawing nearer. The closer you get to God, the smaller your fears appear. The more you rest in His presence, the more your heart learns to breathe again. His peace is not the absence of fear, but the assurance that even when fear knocks, it no longer rules you. So, when worry tries to invade your mind, stop and remind yourself, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27:1. Fear loses its power when faith remembers who's in control. You may not feel fearless, but you can still move forward with trembling courage. That's faith in motion. Not the absence of fear, but obedience despite it. And as you keep walking, you'll find that what once terrified you now testifies of God's strength. Life doesn't always unfold the way you dream. There are moments when everything you built seems to crumble. Relationships end, plans collapse, and the path ahead feels shattered beyond repair. It's in those moments of brokenness that hope often feels furthest away. Yet, it's also in those same places that God begins His most beautiful work. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. God doesn't run from brokenness, He moves toward it. The cracks you try to hide are the very spaces where His light wants to shine through. You see, God's restoration doesn't mean returning things to how they were. It means making them better than before. He takes the shattered pieces of your heart and forms something new, something whole, something eternal. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. It's hard to see beauty in the middle of pain. You may wonder why things had to fall apart, why certain prayers weren't answered, or why people you loved couldn't stay. But God never wastes pain. Every tear carries meaning. Every disappointment carries direction. Sometimes He allows things to break so that your heart can finally be free from what was never meant to hold it. When you bring your brokenness before Him, He doesn't reject you. He receives you. He doesn't ask you to fix yourself before coming. He asks you to come so He can heal you. His grace meets you where you are, not where you wish you were. And in His hands, what was once your greatest pain becomes your greatest testimony. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. You may be broken, but you are not beyond repair. You are pressed, but not crushed. You are struck down, but not destroyed. The very breath in your lungs is proof that God is not finished with your story. Brokenness is not the end. It's the beginning of something new. Just as a seed must break open for life to emerge, sometimes your own breaking is what allows God's purpose to bloom. The cracks are not your failure. They are evidence that something divine is being formed. Look at the cross. The greatest act of love the world has ever known came through brokenness, through the torn body of Jesus, through His suffering, through His surrender. And from that pain came resurrection, redemption, and eternal hope. Your pain, too, holds the seed of resurrection. So today, instead of asking, "Why am I broken?" ask, "What is God building through this?" Because the hands that form the stars are the same hands that are gently piecing you back together. And when He's done, The scars will no longer be reminders of pain, but of grace. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. You are not forgotten. You are being remade. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when you realize that faith is not about control, it's about surrender. You've done everything you can, prayed, planned, fought, and hoped, yet nothing seems to move. It's in that place of exhaustion where God gently invites you to release what you've been holding so tightly. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Those words are not a command to do nothing. They are an invitation to rest in divine assurance, to let go and let God be who He has always been, faithful, sovereign, and good. Surrender isn't giving up, it's giving over. It's the moment when you place every fear, dream, and unanswered prayer in the hands that formed the universe. It's choosing to trust His heart when His hand feels hidden. The act of surrender says, God, even if I don't understand this, I still choose you. And in that decision, peace begins to flow where chaos once lived. You see, we often cling so tightly to what we want that we forget who gave us the desire in the first place. But when you release it to God, you're not losing control. You're returning it to the only one who truly has it. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. Psalm 37:5. Surrender doesn't mean weakness. It means wisdom. It means you understand that the one who wrote your story knows how to finish it perfectly. Think of Jesus in Gethsemane. In the darkest hour of His life, He prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done." Luke 22:42. That moment of surrender changed eternity. It shows us that true power doesn't come from forcing outcomes. It comes from trusting God completely, even when the outcome hurts. Surrender transforms anxiety into peace. It turns striving into stillness. It shifts your focus from what's missing to the one who never leaves. And in that stillness, you find that His presence fills every empty space. He begins to open doors you couldn't force, and close doors that would have led to destruction. What you couldn't fix by effort, He restores by grace. Sometimes surrender feels like loss, but in God's hands, it's always gain. When Abraham laid Isaac on the altar, it wasn't the end of the promise. It was the moment the promise was solidified. When you lay your own Isaac before God, whatever you've been afraid to release, you make room for His miracles to unfold. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. Peter 5:7. You are not surrendering to fate. You are surrendering to love. God doesn't want your perfection. He wants your trust. And when you finally let go, when your hands open in release, you'll feel His peace wrap around you like a soft covering, whispering, "Now I can move." There is freedom in surrender. Freedom from fear, from striving, from the need to control what only God can command. And when you live in that freedom, you begin to see His fingerprints on everything, the unexpected blessings, the closed doors, the detours that led you exactly where you needed to be. So today, take a deep breath and release it all, the questions, the burdens, the battles that belong to Him. You are not losing your grip on life. You are resting your life in the safest hands there are. What is one thing you need to surrender to God today? Name it aloud or write it down and invite Him to take control in His perfect timing. There are days when the darkness feels too heavy, when doubt creeps into your thoughts and hope seems far away. You might look around and see nothing but uncertainty, wondering if light will ever return. Yet even in the deepest night, God's presence still shines. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1:5. His light doesn't need perfect circumstances to glow. It burns brightest when everything else seems dim. God's light is not just a distant glow, it's a living presence within you. When Jesus said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." John 8:12. He was promising more than guidance. He was promising Himself. The light that once parted creation from chaos now dwells in your heart. Even when you can't see the path ahead, His light still guides your next step. You may feel surrounded by shadows, by fear, grief, or confusion. But shadows can only exist where there is light. The presence of darkness is proof that light is near. And when you turn your gaze toward Christ, even the smallest flicker of faith becomes enough to chase away despair. Sometimes God doesn't remove the night immediately because He wants you to learn that His light is not fragile, it endures. It doesn't flicker when the winds of doubt blow, it strengthens. It doesn't fade when you falter, it follows. You don't have to generate your own light, just reflect His. Like the moon reflecting the sun, your peace comes not from self-effort, but from staying close to the source. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. Psalm 119:105. Notice again, it's a lamp, not a floodlight. It gives you just enough light for the next step. That's how faith works. God doesn't reveal the entire journey at once. He gives you light for today and promises to meet you again tomorrow. There is something sacred about learning to trust in the dark. You begin to realize that light isn't the absence of struggle. It's the assurance of God's presence in the middle of it. You may walk through valleys, but His radiance walks beside you. You may cry through long nights, but His comfort never leaves. And here's the truth that carries you through the hardest nights. Darkness cannot last forever. Morning always comes. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Psalm 35. Even when you can't see it, dawn is already forming on the horizon. The same God who painted the first sunrise is still writing the colors of hope across your sky. Hold on to the light, even if all you can do is whisper a prayer in the dark. That whisper is enough to invite His presence. One spark of faith, one verse remembered, one breath of surrender, and suddenly, light breaks through again. Because the truth is, you were never meant to walk in darkness. You were created to shine. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you, radiating strength, peace, and grace. No matter how dark it gets, His light within you will never fade. So tonight, rest in this. The darkness is temporary, but His light is eternal. Worry has a way of creeping in quietly. It starts as a small concern and soon becomes a storm that fills your mind. You replay conversations, imagine worst-case scenarios, and try to solve problems that haven't even happened yet. But in the middle of that chaos, God calls you to exchange your worry for worship. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:6-7. Worship doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means remembering that even when it's not, God still is. When you worship, you shift your focus from what's uncertain to the one who never changes. You take your eyes off the problem and fix them on the promise keeper. Worship realigns your heart with heaven's rhythm. It's not an escape from reality. It's the revelation of a greater one. When you start to worship instead of worry, your heart learns to rest even while the storm rages. Like Paul and Silas in prison, you find yourself singing in the dark. Not because the chains are gone, but because you know who holds the key. The situation may not change immediately, but your spirit does. Worry imprisons. Worship frees. Every time you lift your voice in gratitude, fear loses its hold. Every time you choose praise over panic, peace begins to bloom. God never asked you to carry the weight of the world. He asked you to trust the one who already carried the cross. And in that trust you find a freedom that no circumstance can take away. Cast your cares on the Lord and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. Psalm 55:22. Those words aren't poetic, they're practical. Casting your cares means handing over what was never yours to control. You weren't designed to manage every outcome or predict every turn. You were designed to dwell in His presence. When you begin to worship, heaven meets you where you are. The same Spirit that filled David in the wilderness fills your heart today. The same God who turned Joseph's dungeon into destiny can turn your worry into wonder. What feels impossible to you is easy for Him. Worship changes everything because it reminds you that God hasn't changed. He's still the God who parts seas, who calms storms, who moves mountains. And He's still moving for you. Even when you don't see results, your praise declares faith that God is already at work. The next time worry tries to take over your heart, pause and lift your hands, even if only in silence. Let your sighs become prayers. Let your fears become offerings. Whisper words of worship like, God, I trust you. You are greater than this. Those words are not small. They are powerful. They invite heaven's peace into your situation. Soon, what once felt heavy will begin to feel holy. You'll sense His presence in the very places you used to fear, and you'll realize that worship was never about music. It was about surrender. There are seasons when your strength runs out, when you've prayed every prayer you know, spoken every verse you can remember, and yet your heart still feels weary. You wonder if you'll make it through, if you have anything left to give. But this is exactly where God's strength begins. But He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. 2 Corinthians 12:9. When your strength fails, His takes over. You don't need to be unbreakable. You just need to be willing to lean on Him. God's faithfulness is not dependent on your energy or consistency. It's rooted in His unchanging love. Every morning, His mercy renews itself, ready to lift you again, to steady your steps, to breathe life into what feels dry and empty. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Lamentations 3:22-23. There is something sacred about the moments when you have nothing left, because that's when you finally make room for God to fill you. You stop striving and start resting. You stop depending on your own willpower and begin to draw from His endless well of strength. He doesn't expect perfection from you. He delights in your dependence on Him. Think about Elijah under the broom tree, weary and ready to give up. He told God, I have had enough. Yet even there, God met him, not with judgment, but with gentle provision. He sent an angel to feed him and restore him. God didn't lecture Elijah about faith. He reminded him that He still cared. That's what He does for you too. When you're too tired to go on, He doesn't demand. He renews. Maybe this season has stretched you, drained you, or made you question your calling. But God is still here, whispering, rest in me. His strength is not something you have to earn. It's something you receive. When you quiet your heart before Him, He begins to rebuild you from the inside out. What feels like exhaustion may actually be the soil where new endurance is planted. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Isaiah 40:31. This isn't poetic, it's a promise. It means that as you wait on Him, your strength is not diminishing, it's being renewed. Your heart may feel tired, but your spirit is being revived by His presence. So don't rush to escape the weariness. Sit in it with Him. Let His peace quiet your mind and His love rebuild your courage. The strength you need for tomorrow is being formed today, in the stillness, in the surrender, in the simple act of saying, God, I trust you, even here. There are moments when you look at your life and wonder if God has moved on to someone else, when prayers seem unanswered, dreams feel distant, and silence stretches longer than your strength can bear. But even when it feels like heaven is quiet, God has not forgotten you. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Isaiah 49:15-16. You are not lost in the crowd. You are written on His heart. Every delay, every detour, every tear has meaning in His design. God's love is not measured by how quickly He answers. It's revealed in how faithfully He stays. He has been walking beside you in every moment, even the ones you thought you walked alone. While you were questioning His timing, He was aligning every piece of your story with perfect precision. When life feels like a wilderness, remember Israel's journey. For 40 years they wandered, but God never left them. He led them with a cloud by day and fire by night, feeding them manna when they had nothing, providing water from the rock when thirst threatened to break them. What looked like delay was actually direction. What felt like wandering was preparation for promise. And the same God who guided them through the desert is guiding you now through your uncertainty. He has not forgotten the prayers you prayed with tears in your eyes. He has not overlooked the faith you've shown in small, quiet ways. Even when you can't see progress, heaven has been moving behind the scenes. God's memory is perfect. He doesn't forget, and He never fails. The Lord will perfect that which concerns me. Your mercy, O Lord, endures forever. Psalm 138:8. You may feel unseen, but you are being shaped. You may feel forgotten, but you are being refined. God doesn't waste seasons of silence. He uses them to strengthen your faith, deepen your trust, and reveal His heart. Sometimes He withholds the answer because He wants to give you something greater, Himself. In time, you will see what this season was preparing you for. The closed doors, the waiting, the unanswered questions, all of it will make sense when His plan unfolds. You'll look back and realize that what felt like delay was actually divine choreography. Every step you took, even the painful ones, led you exactly where grace intended. So if today feels heavy, hold this truth close. God hasn't forgotten you. You are still part of His plan, still covered by His promise, still loved beyond measure. His silence is not abandonment. It's the sound of preparation. He is writing something in your life that's worth the wait. Lift your eyes again. Hope isn't gone. It's just being reborn. The same God who began this story will finish it with glory. Being confident of this, that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Philippians 1:6. You are seen, you are loved, you are remembered, and your story is far from over. Reflection for today. Take a moment to thank God for the ways He has proven faithful in the past. Let that remembrance strengthen your faith that He has not and will never forget you.